I used to look forward to Fridays. Strange, isn't it? Looking back now, it feels like I was the only one who didn't see the truth. But at the time, Friday nights were my little breath of stillness. She'd head out with her friends, usually around 6:30, dressed in something sleek and just a little too polished for casual drinks. She'd kiss me on the cheek, say, "Love you, babe," and disappear into the evening. I didn't question it at first. That's the part that stings the most. How much I trusted her. How much I wanted to believe her when she said it was just a girl's night. I'd settle into the couch with a takeout container and a movie she wouldn't care to watch. I convinced myself we both needed space. She worked hard. She deserved it. But routines are funny. They're comfortable until they start feeling off. And once you notice that shift, even slightly, it never feels right again. It started small. I remember one Friday in particular, early spring. She left wearing a navy dress I hadn't seen before. Tight, like it was made for attention. When I asked if it was new, she laughed and said, "No, just hasn't been out of the closet in a while." That night, she didn't come home until after 1 a.m., said they'd lost track of time, that they'd ended up at some rooftop bar near the harbor. She smelled like smoke and someone else's cologne. I told myself it was the city air, that someone at the bar must have been wearing something strong, that her story made sense. But it didn't feel right. 2 weeks later, it happened again. Same excuse. Same vague timeline. That's when I started to notice her phone habits. The way she'd angle the screen away from me. The way her messages were always, "Just from Sarah," or "Nothing important." There's a particular type of silence that grows in a house when something's wrong. It's not just the absence of sound, it's the presence of doubt. Every quiet moment became a question. Every detail, a clue. I didn't want to be that guy. Suspicious, jealous, insecure. But the truth is, I was all of those things. Because something was happening, and I didn't have proof. Just feelings. Just instincts I'd been taught to ignore. It wasn't until I found a receipt that things shifted. It was tucked into her coat pocket, something she never let me wash. A dinner bill from a steakhouse downtown. 2 entrees, a bottle of wine, and dessert. The total was more than I'd ever seen her spend with her friends. And the date? A Friday. The same Friday she told me they went to a vegan spot. I asked her about it. Lightly. Casually. "Hey, you went to that steakhouse last week." She blinked for a second too long. "Oh, no, that must have been from work. We had a client dinner a few days ago." She didn't have clients. She wasn't in sales. She worked in internal operations at a logistics firm. Her job didn't involve dinners or entertaining. But I nodded like it made sense. Like I hadn't caught the lie in her throat. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling and tried to remember when I stopped knowing her. I thought about our first apartment, how we used to fall asleep laughing at dumb YouTube videos, how she used to steal the blankets and then apologize by sliding her cold feet against mine. I missed that version of her. I missed the us we used to be. But missing someone doesn't make them honest. And love doesn't make them loyal. So I made a decision. The next day, I searched online for private investigators. I didn't even know where to start. I didn't want anyone flashy or dramatic. Just someone discreet. Professional. I found a guy named Marcus, a quiet, older man with a military background and a reputation for being precise. We met at a diner 2 towns over. He wore a gray jacket and didn't smile much. That comforted me. I didn't want charm. I wanted truth. He listened carefully, took notes, and asked direct questions. "You sure you want to know?" he asked before we parted ways. I hesitated, then nodded. I need to know what's real. He promised to be in touch. The next Friday, I watched her get ready. She was humming, putting on makeup. She looked beautiful. Too beautiful for what she claimed was just a night of cocktails and catching up. She kissed my cheek again, soft, familiar, and said, "Love you, babe." I watched her walk out the door. The silence after she left felt different this time. Not peaceful. Not still. It was thick, heavy with waiting. I didn't touch my food. Didn't turn on a movie. Just sat there, wondering what Marcus would find. Wondering if I even wanted the answer. But the thing is, once you ask the question, the answer starts to matter more than anything else. 3 days later, Marcus called. "I've got something for you," he said, his voice low. "You might want to sit down." We met again. Same booth. Same diner. He handed me a folder, thick with photographs, timestamped texts, surveillance logs. But my eyes went straight to the top image. There she was, my wife, kissing a man outside a silver Audi. And the timestamp? 10 minutes after she texted me. Love you, babe. I must have stared at that photo for a full minute before I said a word. Not because I was shocked, I think I already knew, but because seeing it, it changed something in me. There's a strange kind of pain that comes when your worst suspicion isn't just confirmed, it's documented. Marcus didn't speak. He just waited, hands folded, giving me space to process. The photo wasn't grainy or vague. It was clear, too clear. Her hand on the man's shoulder, her mouth tilted toward his. The way she smiled afterward, leaning against his chest like it was natural. Like it had happened before. Who is he? I asked. Marcus flipped a few pages in the folder. Name's Daniel. Daniel Marquez. Works in finance, mid-level guy. Divorced 2 years ago. No kids. They've been meeting at the same hotel every other Friday for at least 3 months. Possibly longer. I felt something tighten in my chest. 3 months. He nodded. That's just what we've confirmed. Could be more. She's careful, uses different Uber accounts, changes her routine. But she's not invisible. There were more photos. Her waiting in the hotel lobby, laughing at dinner, her arm linked in his as they walked down the street like they had every right to be seen. Like I didn't exist. I flipped to one of the last pages, a screenshot of her messages. Marcus had cloned her phone through some legal gray area I didn't ask too many questions about. The most recent message thread was with Daniel. She'd texted him that same night. Leaving now. Can't wait to see you. Same room. And then to me, less than 10 minutes later. Love you, babe. That one hit harder than any photo. That message wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a cover. It was cruelty disguised as routine. I closed the folder. You sure this is everything? I asked. For now, Marcus said. But I can keep going. Dig deeper if you want. I shook my head. No, this is enough. I drove home in silence. I didn't turn on music. Didn't call anyone. Just the road, the engine, and the low hum of betrayal clawing at the back of my throat. I didn't cry. I thought I might. But there was nothing. Just a strange hollowness, like my emotions were standing outside of me, unsure whether to come in or keep walking. When I pulled into the driveway, the porch light was on. She always left it on when she was out late. One of those little details that used to mean something. Now it felt staged. Like a scene in a play I didn't audition for. She wasn't home yet. I walked into the kitchen and sat down at the table, the folder still under my arm. I didn't open it again. I just stared at the wood grain and waited. She came home around midnight. I heard the door open, keys drop in the bowl by the entrance. Her heels clicked across the floor. She looked surprised to see me up. Hey, she said, trying to keep her voice light. You're still awake? I nodded. Didn't speak. She paused, watching me, her purse still on her shoulder. Everything okay? I didn't answer that either. Just motioned to the chair across from me. Sit. Her eyebrows lifted. Why? Because we need to talk. She hesitated, then slowly slid into the chair, keeping her coat on. That told me everything. She knew. Maybe not exactly what I knew, but she felt the shift in me. The end had entered the room with her. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't throw the folder across the table like in the movies. I just looked her in the eye and said, I know about Daniel. Her lips parted slightly, but no sound came out. Not denial. Not confusion. Just silence. Guilt doesn't always scream. Sometimes it's quiet. Defeated. She dropped her gaze. How long? I asked. Still, no answer. I said how long. Finally, she whispered. A few months. I nodded slowly. More than 3. She hesitated. Yes. I felt that answer like a slow knife. Why? I asked, and I meant it. Not as an accusation, but as a real question. I needed to understand. Why do that? Why lie? Why tell me you love me, and then do that 10 minutes later? She rubbed her eyes. I don't know. I didn't mean for it to happen. That's not an answer, I said, my voice calm, steady. Too steady. You meant it every Friday. You chose it. Again and again. Tears started forming in her eyes, but I didn't feel sorry for her. Not this time. She cried too easily when it suited her. I didn't want to hurt you, she said. I almost laughed. Almost. You kissed another man while texting me, love you, babe. You booked hotel rooms and made up dinners. You smiled in my face while building a second life. So forgive me if I don't buy that now. She buried her face in her hands, muffled sobs echoing off the kitchen tile. I didn't comfort her. I didn't touch her, because something inside me had already shifted. Love didn't live here anymore. Only facts. Only finalities. I'm not shouting, I said. I'm not throwing anything. But this is done. You need to leave. She looked up, panic flooding her face. Tonight. Yes, I said. Tonight. She didn't move at first. Just sat there with her mascara beginning to smudge, mouth half open like she wanted to protest, but didn't know how to form the words. I waited. Let the silence hang between us like a thick curtain neither of us could push through. You can't mean that, she said finally, her voice thin and trembling. We've been through so much. We have, I said quietly. And I was there for all of it. Every step. You just weren't. She opened her mouth again, closed it, looked around like the walls might tell her what to say next. Then, softly, where am I supposed to go? It wasn't cruel, the way I responded. Just honest. I don't know, but it won't be here. I stood up and left her sitting there. Went upstairs, grabbed a suitcase, and placed it by the front door. Not mine. Hers. I'd packed it earlier, basic things. Enough for her to go, at least for a while. Clothes. Chargers. Keys to the car I no longer wanted to drive. By the time I came back, she was standing by the doorway, arms crossed, trembling. This is really it? She asked. I nodded. You ended it the second you stopped choosing us. She stared at me, tears now free-falling. And for a moment, I remembered the first time I ever saw her cry. Years ago, when she got laid off from her first job, curled up next to me on the couch. I held her then, promised her everything would be okay. Now I was the one holding the door open. She stepped past me, slowly, suitcase rolling behind her like a quiet apology. At the threshold, she turned. I did love you, she said. I still do. And maybe that was true. In her way. A version of love warped by lies and Friday nights with someone else. But it wasn't enough. Then why did you let me find out like this? I asked. Why didn't you come to me before you crossed the line? She didn't have an answer, just lowered her gaze and stepped outside. The door clicked shut behind her. I stood there a while, listening to the quiet hum of the house, so familiar and foreign at the same time. Her perfume still lingered in the hallway. Her coffee mug was on the counter, half full, but it felt like she'd already been gone for months. I just hadn't caught up to it until now. That night, I didn't sleep. Just sat on the edge of our bed, my bed now, staring at the darkened window. I wasn't angry anymore. Not exactly. Anger had faded the moment I saw that photo. What I felt now was something deeper. A kind of grief for the life I thought we had. For the woman I thought she was. And for the version of me who used to believe Friday nights were hers. In the weeks that followed, I made the calls. Changed the locks. Had the bills updated. I hired a lawyer. Not aggressive, but firm. We didn't scream through our separation. There were no scenes, no shattered plates. Just cool, quiet disconnection. Like two people closing a chapter that one of them had already stopped reading. I thought I'd feel better once it was official. But healing doesn't work like that. There were nights I still reached for my phone at 6:30, expecting her usual, heading out, love you. I'd feel it like muscle memory, like a ghost brushing past me. And then I'd remember. She hadn't really been mine for a long time. I started taking long walks after work. Not to clear my head exactly, but to feel something real. Trees, air, strangers walking dogs. It helped. Reminded me the world was still turning. That heartbreak doesn't stop the seasons. One evening, maybe a month later, Marcus called again. I almost didn't pick up. I wanted you to know, he said. She's still seeing him. Daniel. Yeah, still meeting. Same hotel. Different days now, not just Fridays. I didn't say anything. She doesn't know I'm still watching, he added, like it might matter. But it didn't. Not anymore. Thanks, I said. You can stop now. He paused. You sure? I'm sure. Because I was done living in shadows. Done keeping track of someone who stopped being honest with me the minute she walked out that door. Whether it lasted with Daniel or not, that wasn't my story anymore. Mine was about picking up the pieces, learning to trust myself again. People ask what betrayal feels like. It's not always fire and fury. Sometimes it's a text message. 3 words sent on autopilot. Words you once cherished, that now feel like poison. Love you, babe. I've deleted it now. But sometimes, in the silence of a Friday night, I still hear it echo. And then I let it go. Because love isn't a text you send before cheating. It's the choice you make when no one's watching. And I've started choosing me. Finally. Quietly. One Friday at a time.